My sister once started crying and locked herself in her room after my parents spent the last of their money buying her a Game Boy because the Game Boy was grey and not pink. Reddit, what's the most cringeworthy, ungrateful thing you've ever seen someone do? Same thing happened to me a few years ago. My sister wanted a laptop. I was in college but had a little bit of Christmas money saved up, so I decided to get her something. I did a bunch of reading about what was the best kind of used laptop to buy. I ended up getting her an IBM ThinkPad T51. I formatted it, installed Windows XP, and went down to the school bookstore and got a student copy of Office to install on it. I was talking to my mom the next day and mentioned what I was getting her. My mom says, oh, well, she really wanted one of those new pink laptops. You should have gotten her one of those. I explain I didn't have the hundreds to spend on a brand new Dell for her, but this was a perfectly nice IBM that would do great for her first year of college. She was graduating high school that year. Later that day I got a call from my sister where she proceeded to scream at me and demand I get her the pink Dell she wanted. Frick that. I sold it on eBay and ended up making some money on it. I don't remember what I got her that year, but it was something cheap, crappy and from Walmart. She dealt without a laptop until she was desperate and I gave her an even crappier one than the IBM a friend had given to me that was destined for his trash can. My aunt gave a small birthday party for my cousin, who was turning 25, last fall. He got really upset and angry because she bought him a pair of black skateboarding shoes instead of brown ones. She tried to calmly explain that she couldn't find any brown ones, but he wasn't having it. I almost slapped him. It annoys me when I hear about teens and children doing crap like this, but it makes me sad for your cousin that he's a grown butt man and still acting like a spoiled kid. I can only pity him. My sister was so unhappy with the car my parents got her that she tried to sell it every time it was parked. This was back before cell phones, so the only number she had to give was the home phone, which my parents always answered if they were there. They got her back by moving the car one day and telling her that someone had bought it, but since it was their car they got the money for it. One of my friends received a car for their 18th birthday from their grandparents. A free car. Their response was to break down in tears, saying how much they hated it because it was an old man car and then absolutely refused to drive it ever. That's about when I had an epiphany and wanted that person out of life immediately. After my mom died, my stepdad took some of the insurance money and bought his daughter a brand new SUV. I heard she threw a screaming fit in the driveway because it wasn't a sports car. BTW, me and my other siblings got nothing at all from him. Of course now she is 35 and still lives with her dad and still screams and whines for everything she wants, so I guess karma is a B, and so is my stepsister. Whoa, that's pretty horrible, the way people can behave towards children who aren't their own blood. I built my stepson a gaming computer, helped him set it up and got some games loaded up on it for him so we could game together and bond some. As soon as I had it all set up, he told me to get out of his room and closed the door. I spent 4 months saving and buying parts for it one at a time. You should adopt me, then we can game together. I'll be a cool stepson. I promise. My sister did almost the same thing. They got her a DS and it got stolen a week later. I found it as I was taking out the trash and placed it back in her room. A day after that, I found it in pieces in the trash. I screamed at that bee for an hour. Similar issue with a group of children I'll allow to remain anonymous. They complained about their Christmas gifts being either too cheap or too lame or one of many other things. Their father returned all of them to the store and bought something for himself and their mother. The following year they were very humble and thankful for the gifts they received. About time we get one with a happy ending. Every Christmas my in-laws ask me to cook dinner for them. They always want steaks, and I always make sure to cook them exactly as ordered. I've been cooking for years at a restaurant, and now at the firehouse, and know my way around a steak. Every year I stand out in the cold and grill their dinner while they sit inside and enjoy the fire. Every year they insist that their steaks are pink. Every year I prove to them that the lighting in the dining room is pinkish, and if they would simply come outside and view their steaks in natural light they would know. So I go back outside and grill their steaks until they turn to charcoal to make them happy. Every year I have to listen to 6 months of complaints about how freaking tough the steaks were. My 16-year-old cousin bitched about how our grandparents only gave her £100 for Christmas. I informed her that they're pensioners and she should shut the frick up. 100 quid is a lot for a 16-year-old to get regardless of where it came from, and she really should shut the frick up. Here's just one of 2 minute early morning cardiac arrest call. We worked on this guy furiously, got a pulse back, everything went right. Good call. Guy gets into the cath lab right away and walks out of the hospital alive a couple weeks later. Then his cranky butt wife sends us a bill for carpet cleaning, saying that we tracked in mud on her carpet when we were saving her husband's life. Send her a bill for saving her husband's life. A girl in one of my classes in high school came in all pissy and crabby one morning. The teacher asked her what was wrong. She began by saying her daddy had promised her a Mercedes-Benz for her birthday, but she wasn't going to get one after all. At first I thought, okay, fine. Her dad was just messing with her and she didn't realize it. After a few minutes of OMG, it's not fair, I hate my life etc, she explained why she wasn't getting the Benz after all. Apparently, her mother didn't approve of her having a sporty Benz as her first car. The mom was afraid it would encourage her daughter to drive recklessly. So, the mom got the dad to buy the girl a brand new Cadillac CTS with all the bells, dings and whistles instead. Minor upshot, not even a month later, she totaled the car. As far as I know, her parents fixed it but kept it for themselves after that. TLDR. Girl who only has a driver's permit gets crazy upset because she got a brand new Cadillac instead of a Benz for her birthday. So they were good rich parents. You may share in our wealth, child, but don't frick it up. My niece is 14. For the better part of 5 years my parents, her grandparents, have been raising her because her parents are deadbeats. Because of what her past was like, witnessing abuse, lots of emotional problems, etc. She is spoiled rotten. Last year for Christmas my parents bought her a $400 camera that is nicer than any of us have ever had. This year for Christmas she spent the entire day complaining about how terrible her camera was and how it takes awful pictures and how she deserves a new one. Another story, my parents gave her a used iPhone, she's 14, a few months ago with a not-a-box case. She took the case off because it was ugly and then promptly carelessly dropped it on the ground, shattering the screen. She blamed it on my parents, saying they should have gotten her a case for it. I have endless stories from her. She also broke her nice laptop by being careless and whines every day for a new one. I've never wanted to slap a kid as much as I have her at times. My grandma spent a whole freaking year knitting me, my brother and sister sweaters. Very nice sweaters in our favorite colors. My brother looked at it and said, why would you waste your time making this? I don't even wear sweaters. I am more of a hoodie guy. He was 18 at the time. That makes it even worse. Ungrateful bastard. I knit. Sweaters are just about some of the hardest things you can make, especially if you do it right and with patterns, designs, colors, etc. If it took your grandma 4 months to make one sweater, those must have been pretty badass. Reading this made me want to smack your brother, that little bastard. My brother and I were raised by a single mother, our father having died when I was 4, my brother 8. After he died we moved from where we lived to where my grandparents live, to be closer to family. One day, my brother and I were apparently just acting like brats. I don't remember it. I was young, maybe 7 at the time. We wouldn't help my mother clean up or something. Well, my mother told my brother to watch me for a little and then she left for my grandma's, 3 minutes away. I learned later from my brother, who was told by my grandma, that my mother left that day so that she could sit at my grandma's and cry. She just cried about how she couldn't take everything that we were doing. I've never felt worse about anything in my whole life, and I was probably 8 years old when I found out. This one is about my sister's dad. I was in 6th grade and my sister in 8th. We only had 4 classes for extracurricular activities, and she'd already taken all of them, as they'd only lasted 3 weeks. So her teacher, and eventually mine Mrs. McCulley, started teaching her American Sign Language during 6th period instead of what she usually did during that hour. My sister worked hard and became an impressive translator using sign for her age. Mrs. Macaulay scheduled a special performance for her to debut her skill during 8th grade graduation ceremonies. She signed "You Raise Me Up" and it was beautiful. She fumbled a little bit during the middle of the song, but smiled and mouthed sorry to the audience, and continued on flawlessly. After the ceremony was over, her father walked up to her and said, "Well, you fricked up there, didn't you?" Instead of being proud and grateful to have a talented child, he snubbed her out. She was so ashamed and embarrassed. She never did sign again. She could have had a promising career teaching it, and he fricked it up. I hate him for that. My cousin, who was 16, ran away from home because her mom wouldn't buy her a droid razor. They couldn't afford it. Her mother was working 2 jobs just to support her. She was only gone for a few days but just long enough to get pregnant. I'm gonna get pregnant. That will show them. I suppose this is more of a funny one. This thread needs it. One year I got a little pedal go-kart for Christmas. I was so excited. It was amazing. Not nearly as excited as my little sister, who got a Barbie playhouse, but she didn't want that anymore. She wanted my go-kart. She wailed and screamed for 2 hours until I gave in and let her have a go. She pretty much monopolized it for the whole of Christmas while I made a fort out of the leftover boxes and wrapping paper and threw walnuts into the fire and at my dad. It was fun. I had the same issue as child, except I'd be the one to ask for pedal go-kart and my brother would say he didn't know what he wanted. He'd get the pedal kart I wanted and what I got were girly things like dolls and pink clothes that they knew I'd never wear. I was a tomboy, everyone knew it, but my entire family pretended like I wasn't and only got me girl appropriate stuff. A girl at my high school put a brick on her gas pedal and crashed her brand new Mustang into a concrete wall at school. All because the car she got for her 16th birthday was the wrong color, and she kept bragging she'd get a new one. I'm just teaching my parents a lesson. She got expelled and arrested. After that I don't know. It was 2 months from graduation. When I was a little kid, my grandmother had gotten me Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles for the NES as a birthday present. I was turning like 4 or 5. It was the one thing I really wanted. I loved the Ninja Turtles, and what better than a video game about them? Except, she put it in a box for a toaster. I'd assumed to throw me off from the fact that she was getting me a video game. So there I was, 4 or 5 years old, and I unwrap a toaster from the grandmother who always spoils the grandkid, getting them whatever they want. I remember the disappointment that washed over me immediately. Why would my grandma get me a toaster? Was all I could think. It was too much grief. I started to cry and bawl my eyes out. I didn't calm down until they opened the box and showed me that inside she had indeed gotten me the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles video game. On a related note, holy frick was that game hard for a 5-year-old. Know a friend whose mom absolutely spoiled her. Her mom, despite being disabled and with limited income, does everything she possibly can for her only daughter. Buys her phones, expensive clothes, whatever else she wants, and most recently a new car. Heck, she even does her homework for her. Since my friend is DIing or failing all of her classes, simply because she hates school and can't be bothered, even though she says she wants to go to college. All in all, this girl is blessed with this awesome freaking mom. My friend, however, usually doesn't have many pleasant things to say about her mom unless it's on Facebook. So apparently there is this fair that they go to as a family every year, and her dad had recently died, so it would be the first year without him. Her mom brings it up and the ingrate called my friend point blank says she is not going to let her mom go. Why? Because she only wants her cockhead of a boyfriend there. Her mom, who was on the verge of tears, said, "But we go every year." Broke my heart. My spoiled teenage cousin almost earned himself a dick punch last Christmas. We were talking about what we each got for Christmas that year. Since we're both gamers, I was excited that my wife had gotten me SWTOR. He got a bunch of games, a new 360 since his old one was dirty and scratched from his nerd raging, with Kinect, a Fender guitar, a new drum set, an iPhone 4 to replace his stupid 3GS. And since he just turned 16, his parents gave them their old 2009 Toyota SUV. Thing is sweet, fully loaded, beautiful. I was like, dang dude, that sounds like a heck of a haul. His reply, yeah right, that car is freaking gay. My buddy at school's parents got him a Honda S2000, a Burton snowboard, and him and his girlfriend's new iPhones. Plus they got to go on a cruise for Christmas. I told my parents what car I wanted. They're just cheap. I gave him a verbal beatdown the likes of which he needed to hear, rubbing on just how rough his life is, all the while he's rolling his eyes. This thread is also acting as an extremely effective form of birth control. I hope they returned that crap to the store. If my kid ever grew up to be that ungrateful, I would realize something needed to change. Man, that makes me mad. I was at a UN camp for high schoolers. This girl was bitching how her 16th got ruined because a BMW convertible she got from her parents was yellow, not red. As a kid from a poor public school, I just wanted to punch her in the nose. It wasn't the most expensive of gifts, but my mom bought me a sweatshirt I really wanted for Christmas. I was in my scene kid stage and wanted my clothes to fit tight, so I told my mom to get me a medium even though she'd normally buy me a large. Well, I opened up my gift, got excited when I saw it was that sweatshirt, and then immediately threw a fit when I saw the sweatshirt was a large. I basically threw it on the couch and went, great. Well, now I'm never going to wear this. I acted like a dong the rest of the day and made it a point to not even try the sweatshirt on. Eventually I put it on in my room and it fit perfectly. I thought about the fact that I had yelled at my mom for something that she bought out of love for me and didn't need to get me in the first place. I felt pretty freaking ashamed of myself and gave her a sob-filled apology. I'm always grateful anytime anyone gives me any sort of gift now, even if it's something that I wouldn't in a million years want. I am glad you learned your lesson. I'm ashamed of it to this day, but I've got a good example of selfishness. It was Christmas time, and I was 17 and my sister was 14. One of the family friends owns a taxi company, and my parents bought one of his old cabs for $500 as a Christmas present for my sister. I was all I wanted was to drive, but couldn't afford a car yet, and here they were buying my sister a car when she didn't even have her learners. I didn't get insulting, but I was pretty unpleasant about the whole thing. Turns out, they had bought the car for me, and told me that it was for my sister to explain its presence. Yeah, even thinking about it fills me with shame. And my parents are such good parents that they'll never bring up my behavior, unless I do first. One of these days, I really have to apologize for how I acted, if I can work up the balls. This I can kinda understand though. There's you at 17 who really wants a car, and you're told your sister is getting one at 14. Of course that's gonna upset you. My little sister was 16, having a physical relation with her BF, but would not tell my mom. She calls me one night and tells me that they ran out of condoms and decided to get physically intimate anyway. I told her that she needed to get Plan B, or take some of my birth control. I looked it up and you can take 4 of the type of pills I had to be as effective as Plan B. I did not have $55 to give her for Plan B, but I did have the extra BC pills that she could have. I told her I would drive them over right then, because the sooner she take the BC the better. My sister agreed with me, so at midnight I left to drive across town to give her some emergency contraception. As I'm pulling in my parents' drive, I get a call from my older sister. My younger sister had called her and convinced her to spend the $55 on Plan B, the same thing I was bringing her except it was free, and to call me and tell me not to worry about it. So my older sister shells out the $55 for pills and asks my little sister has any money to pay her back. Little sister tells her no. So older sis told younger sis that she can babysit a couple of nights for her to pay off the debt. Fast forward a week later, my younger sis is watching my niece. As per the secret between sisters EC debt payment plan, my niece's dad comes to pick her up. They leave. My dad asks my sister if they paid her for babysitting. My little sister says, no, older sister didn't pay me anything for babysitting. My dad calls my older sis and tears her butt about how she a cheap po sister for not paying younger sis for babysitting. TLDR, my little sister is a cuntastic skank. Simple solution. Oh, she's babysitting for me because I paid $55 for birth control after she got physically intimate with her boyfriend without protection. I am 24 and can't no way afford to own a car with insurance and gas money. How do these 15-18-year-olds afford it? I can understand a parent buying a car but dropping a couple hundred to $1,000 on gas money and still have ungrateful children. I'm going to look at RAWW to cheer myself up. This mouse is looking for friends in the comments. Comment mouse boy to befriend him. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.